The air in Port Royal, Jamaica, was thick with the scent of salt rum and impending rain. Captain Jack Blackheart Sparrow, a name whispered with both dread and respect across the Caribbean, leaned against a weathered pier post. His ship, the Sea Serpent, a vessel as notorious as its captain, was docked nearby, its black sails furled like the wings of a sleeping beast. Jack wasn't looking for trouble. He was looking for a deal. A desperate man, Samuel Vance, a renowned merchant, approached him. "Captain Sparrow," he began, his voice trembling. "They took her, the Sea Dogs. They took my daughter, Ilara." The Sea Dogs were a rival pirate crew, known for their ruthlessness and led by the brutal Captain Thorne. Jack's crew had clashed with them before, and the animosity was a well-known fact. "What's your price, merchant?" Jack's eyes, as blue as the deep ocean, narrowed. "Her freedom. I will pay any price. My entire family fortune, if that's what it takes. They demand 2,000 gold coins as ransom." Jack smirked. "A steep price for a soul, isn't it? But then again, a man's daughter. She's worth more than all the gold in the world." The bargain was struck. Jack and his crew, including the loyal first mate Finn and the sharp-eyed quartermaster Lena, prepared for the journey. The mission was dangerous. It wasn't just about the gold. It was about honor, a concept many believed pirates didn't possess. But Jack was different. He saw a man's desperation and felt a flicker of empathy. He wasn't a hero, but he wasn't a monster either. The journey was fraught with peril. A sudden squall hit them, lashing the Sea Serpent with waves as tall as mountains. The crew worked tirelessly, a testament to their skill and loyalty to Jack. "Hold fast, lads," Jack roared over the wind. "The storm's fury will pass. We've weathered worse." They found the Sea Dogs' hideout on a secluded island, a place shrouded in mist and foreboding. The air was heavy, and the silence was unnerving. Jack, Finn, and a few others went ashore, their cutlasses gleaming under the faint moonlight. They found Thorne's camp, a chaotic mess of tents and drunken pirates. Ilara was tied to a tree, her elegant dress torn, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and defiance. Thorne, a burly man with a scar running down his face, stood before them. "Sparrow," he sneered, "I knew you'd come. The merchant's little girl. Quite a catch, isn't she?" "The gold is yours, Thorne," Jack said, his voice calm and steady despite the tension. "Let her go." Thorne laughed. "The gold is not enough. You want the girl, you'll have to fight for her, pirate." A fierce battle ensued. Cutlasses clashed, and the air was filled with shouts and the clang of steel. Jack moved with a fluid grace, a dance of death honed by years of combat. He was a force of nature, driven by the unspoken code he lived by. The fight was a brutal, honest confrontation of wills. Jack and his crew were outnumbered, but not outmatched. They fought with a unified purpose. Finn protected Jack's flank, and Lena, with her quick thinking and sharp aim, provided cover. The true power of Jack's crew was not their brawn, but their unity. In the end, Jack faced Thorne. Their duel was a whirlwind of skill and hatred. Jack's blade found its mark, disarming Thorne and forcing him to yield. "The girl," Jack panted, holding his blade to Thorne's throat. "Now." Ilara was released. She looked at Jack, her gaze full of a complex mixture of gratitude and curiosity. He had rescued her, but he was a pirate, a man who lived outside the law. Jack, in turn, saw more than a merchant's daughter. He saw a woman of spirit and resilience. The mission was complete, the ransom paid, and the girl was safe. They returned to Port Royal, a storm of emotions brewing within them. The gold was gone, but something more valuable had been gained. A new connection, forged in the fires of a pirate's war. Upon their return to Port Royal, Jack and his crew were met with a hero's welcome. Samuel Vance, a man of his word, was ecstatic. He had his daughter back, safe and sound. But the celebration was short-lived. A new arrangement, a diplomatic solution to the escalating pirate conflict, was proposed. The governor of Port Royal, Lord Harrington, summoned Jack to his residence. He was a man of power and influence, but even he recognized the shifting tides of the Caribbean. "Captain Sparrow," he began, his voice grave, "your actions have brought an uneasy truce between the pirates and the merchants, but the sea dogs remain a threat. We need a lasting solution." Ilara, who was also present, looked at Jack with an unreadable expression. The memory of his fierce eyes and steady hand on the battlefield was etched in her mind. He was not what she expected. He was a man of honor, albeit a rogue one. "What do you propose?" Jack asked, his hand resting on the hilt of his cutlass. "A formal alliance," Lord Harrington said. "You, Captain Sparrow, will take a wife, a woman of high standing, a symbol of peace between our worlds. The merchant's daughter." The words hung in the air, a shocking pronouncement. Jack looked at Ilara and she looked at him. Marriage to a pirate. It was an absurd, impossible notion. The pirate life was one of freedom, of the open sea and no commitments, and Ilara, a woman of society, was destined for a different path. "I can't," Ilara said, her voice firm. "I was a pawn in a ransom deal, not a bargaining chip for a political marriage." "This is not a political marriage, Ilara," her father said, his voice pleading. "This is for the good of all of us. This is the only way to ensure the peace we all desperately need." Jack said nothing, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. He had risked his life for her. He had paid a price for her freedom. But marriage? A commitment he never sought, a chain he never wanted. He remembered the feeling of holding his blade to Thorn's throat, the satisfaction of a job well done. He remembered Ilara's eyes, the way they met his with a strange mix of fear and admiration. He turned to the governor. "And if I refuse, the truce falls apart," Lord Harrington said. "Thorn and the sea dogs will be back. The fragile peace will be broken, and the entire Caribbean will be plunged into another pirate war. Your crew will be in constant danger. Your ship will be a target." The weight of responsibility settled on Jack's shoulders. He looked at his crew, standing outside the governor's office, their faces a mix of confusion and concern. They had risked their lives for him, for the promise of a reward, and now they faced the possibility of endless conflict. He looked at Ilara again, her face a mask of defiance and fear. He saw a kindred spirit, a woman trapped in a world she didn't choose. "I accept," Jack said, his voice low and resolute. "I will marry the merchant's daughter." Ilara's gasp was audible. The world seemed to stop. The governor and her father looked relieved, but Ilara's eyes were filled with a raw, unadulterated anger. The ceremony was a hurried, somber affair. No grand celebration, no joyous vows, just two people from different worlds, bound by a forced peace treaty. As Jack placed a simple, unadorned ring on her finger, their hands touched, a brief, electric moment of connection. The first few days of their marriage were a study in silent defiance. Ilara refused to speak to him, and Jack gave her space, understanding her anger. They were two strangers, living under the same roof, bound by a pact they never made. But slowly, the walls began to crumble. One evening, as a storm raged outside, Jack found Ilara sitting by the window, staring out at the lashing rain. "It's a strange life, isn't it?" Jack said, his voice soft. "To be owned by a man, by a deal, by a piece of gold." Ilara looked at him, her eyes wide. "You understand?" "More than you know," he said. "I am a captain, but I am also a prisoner of my reputation, of the expectations of others. I am a pirate, but I have a code, a set of rules I must follow. We are more alike than you think." Their conversation, a simple exchange of words, broke the ice. They started to talk, to share stories. Jack spoke of the sea, of the freedom of the open water, of the stars that guided him. Ilara spoke of her life in society, of the suffocating expectations and the gilded cage she lived in. They found a common ground, a shared sense of being outsiders, of not belonging. They began to see each other not as a pirate and a merchant's daughter, but as two people, two souls, navigating a world that sought to control them. The alliance between the pirates and the merchants held, but it was a fragile peace. Captain Thorne, humiliated and vengeful, was biding his time. He was a constant threat, a shadow looming over their lives. Jack and Ilara's relationship, however, had blossomed. What started as a forced marriage had evolved into something genuine, a deep and abiding respect and affection. They had found solace in each other's company, a quiet comfort in the midst of the chaos. One evening, a message arrived for Jack, a taunting challenge from Thorne. He had captured a small merchant vessel and was holding the crew hostage. "Come alone, Sparrow," the message read, "or the blood of innocents will be on your hands." The location was a deserted cove, a known haunt of the sea dogs. Jack's crew, loyal as ever, wanted to go with him, but Jack refused. "This is my fight," he said, his voice firm. "He wants me, not the crew. He wants a duel, a final showdown." Ilara was terrified. "Jack, you can't go alone. It's a trap." "I have to," he said, his eyes filled with a familiar resolve. "This is the only way to end it. For good." He kissed her, a deep and passionate kiss that held the promise of a future they both now dreamed of. "I'll be back," he whispered. "I promise." The cove was eerily silent. Thorne and his men were waiting. A trap sprung the moment Jack set foot on the sandy shore. Jack fought with a ferocity born of love and desperation. He was a force to be reckoned with, a whirlwind of steel and skill. But he was outnumbered. He was a man, not a myth. He fought with every ounce of strength he had, fueled by the memory of Ilara's face, her eyes filled with fear and love. Just as he was about to be overwhelmed, a group of figures emerged from the shadows. It was his crew, led by Finn and Lena. They had disobeyed his orders. They had followed him, unwilling to let their captain face the danger alone. The battle was rejoined, a chaotic and brutal clash of pirates. In the midst of the fight, Ilara appeared, her face pale but determined. She had not stayed behind. She had secretly followed her husband and his crew, a quiet defiance born of love. She wasn't a fighter, but she was a woman of courage. She found the ropes holding the hostages and began to cut them, her hands trembling, but her resolve steady. She wasn't just a merchant's daughter anymore. She was a pirate's wife, a woman who had found her own strength in the chaos of his world. The fighting raged, but the tide turned in their favor. With the hostages freed, Thorne's men lost their advantage and began to fall. Jack cornered Thorne. This time, there would be no quarter, no truce. Their final duel was a symphony of blades, a conclusion to a long-standing feud. Jack, fueled by a love that had transformed him, fought with a newfound purpose. He defeated Thorne, his victory not just a triumph of skill, but of the human spirit. With Thorne's defeat, the threat was gone. The truce, now a true and lasting peace, was solidified. Jack and his crew, along with the freed hostages, returned to Port Royal, heroes once again. This time, however, the celebration was different. It was for them, for their unity, for their love. Jack and Ilara stood on the deck of the Sea Serpent, the wind in their hair, the sun on their faces. Their journey was a testament to a truth they had both learned, that love could be found in the most unexpected of places, that a forced beginning could lead to a genuine and lasting happiness, and that even a pirate could find a home, not on land or sea, but in the heart of another. They had found their peace, a peace that was not forged with gold or treaties, but with a bond of love and respect, a pirate and a merchant's daughter. A story of a rescue that led to a marriage that led to a true and lasting love. If you enjoyed this pirate tale, remember to subscribe for more thrilling stories and adventures.